True intimacy isn't just about physical closeness. It's about someone truly seeing you. But if the idea of being truly seen terrifies you, you're not alone. Today we're going to talk about why this fear exists at all, how it shows up in your relationships, and most importantly, how to release it so you can have truly, deeply meaningful connections. Hey, beautiful human, it's me, Rebecca Wiener McGregor, and welcome to another episode of Effective Immediately, the show where we talk mindset, emotions, leadership, and abundance, and I give you a mindset shift that you can make effective immediately. Okay, so the first thing to know is if you are feeling this or have felt this at some time in your life, it didn't come from nowhere. Okay, so you don't have to worry that you're just odd or different. You can actually notice patterns of where this began. Okay, many of us learned very early on that being fully ourselves wasn't safe. Maybe you were judged for expressing emotions. Maybe you were rejected when you asked for support. Or maybe you were abandoned when you needed love the most. And for some, that abandonment can look like, hey, I'm sharing something with you and they don't believe you, or they actually reject you for asking for help. Okay, so over time, this teaches our nervous system, our sweet little nervous system, that being seen is actually associated with being hurt. So when you start to hide and shrinking parts of yourself, not only or only showing the parts of you that feel acceptable or pleasing to others. So you start to not share your full self. You start to hold back certain opinions, certain pieces of yourself. Maybe even just don't speak up about anything when you're asked your opinion. Take a breath. Give yourself some love. This is not uncommon, especially at our Gen X age. All right. This may look like always being the one who listens, but never really sharing your own struggles, or thinking you have to be perfect to be worthy of love. The truth is, these protective behaviors were once a survival strategy. Every protective behavior that we have once helped us through a difficult situation. So our subconscious mind said, hey, well, this is the way it needs to be in order to keep me safe. This did a good job keeping me safe that time, so now I'm going to do it all the time, and commits it into our automatic behaviors, our automatic emotions. So if this has ever been a part of your life, you'll understand why. If it's a part of your life now, I want you to give yourself a lot of grace and a lot of love, okay? Because once you switch into survival mode, the brain doesn't tell us, okay, you've been in survival mode for 2 weeks now, it's time to switch, right? Usually we get into survival mode as young people, really young people, sometimes and often before age 8. We are stepping into some sort of survival behaviors, survival beliefs, and survival tendencies. And we don't realize that we are in survival mode until way later, when we are maxed out emotionally, we're feeling stressed, we're feeling burnt out, we're feeling confused, we can't make decisions, we carry shame, and it all gets too heavy. Often related to anxiety, anger, depression, that kind of thing. Okay, so remembering, be truly, truly loving with yourself here. Because even though those protective behaviors came in, they may now be blocking your true intimacy. So be loving with them. Just notice. Notice what's happening around you. Notice what's happening inside of you. The biggest thing that you can do always is to notice what you're thinking, but also notice what you're feeling in your body. Tension, tightness, heaviness, racing heart, churning stomach, tightness in your legs, tightness in your bottom, that kind of thing can be an indicator of stress and trauma. especially if it's hanging around and doesn't go away. And you think, oh my gosh, I just need another massage. All right. The fear of this vulnerability is, and why we sabotage our intimacy, even when we truly want it, is because the stories that our subconscious mind is telling ourselves is that it's not safe to do that. It's not safe to connect deeply, and often our subconscious mind will equate old pain with future pain. So we can say, well, I don't really want a relationship. We've kind of touched on this before. I don't really want a relationship. I don't really think I can get into this. I think I'm just better off without it. It's not that you're afraid of the love. It's that you're afraid of the pain. Right? It's not that you're afraid of making room for someone in your life. It's making room for someone in your life and it not working out and there being pain. It's not about necessarily being in love. It's about the end, worrying about the end of the love, or if it doesn't work out, or if it's going to be the same way it was before. Because not only do we have stuff from our childhood, we have stuff from our teen years and our adult years and experience having relationships that sometimes says, okay, relationships aren't for me. And we'll internalize this story that relationships aren't for me. This isn't for me. I'm just gonna stay by myself. I'm just gonna have fun. I'm not gonna get serious, that kind of thing. And be super loving with yourself, because this can show up as avoiding deep conversations, becoming hyper independent, like I said, not really needing anyone, being attracted to emotionally unavailable partners. I was a queen of being attracted to emotionally unavailable partners and was able to manifest my dream partner, even beyond my wildest dreams partner. So if you were wondering if this is for you, it is. And it can even manifest as just getting anxious when someone feels like they're getting too close to you, physically and emotionally. Like, oh, they like this part of me. Ooh, there might be a queasy feeling. There might be a tense feeling. There might be a desire to pull back. But when you understand that fear is an old defense mechanism, you can begin to shift it. Okay, so give yourself a nice big breath. Nice long exhale, and just acknowledge that the relationships that you've had do not have to be indicative of the relationships that you will have. Even if you're in pretty good relationships, this might be showing up in your work life, right? We can have the same kind of responses to having bad jobs as we do having bad relationships, bad loving relationships. All right, healing is about safety, okay? And if you've spent years protecting yourself, the subconscious mind and the nervous system, which are all connected, need to learn that being seen is actually safe, that it actually can be safe, right? We have to acknowledge there are still the world is still imperfect, life is still imperfect, but for the most part, that you are able to be seen and be safe at the same time. This starts and really rests on a foundation of self-trust. And that is knowing that you can handle love, knowing that you can handle intimacy, and even potential disappointment without shutting down. This is a big deal, right? Some of us hold on to old stories and old patterns that have really stung. We don't even do it consciously, right? This is why talking about this stuff or just doing the mindset shifts that I recommend in the show aren't really they're going to help a little bit. They're going to help shift with your awareness. They're going to help you recognize certain patterns, and then you can stop yourself in the midst of those patterns. But really the work with the subconscious mind is what helps you eliminate those patterns and reset yourself so that you can operate from the place that you want to, from the behaviors that you want to. Okay. Some simple shifts. We're going to talk about some simple shifts that you can make right now. The first one is recognizing your patterns. If you take stock, if you take stock of your current relationship and you take stock of your past relationships, where are you avoiding intimacy? Where are you pushing people away? Where are you only showing parts of yourself? Just keeping most of the big stuff tucked away, right? But just showing little bits of yourself, the parts that you believe are the most pleasing. Okay? Be really loving with yourself about this. And also, the other thing is to recognize your patterns in response to other people's relationships. This is a big thing. One of the things that can happen when we are avoiding intimacy is that we become experts on intimacy and we start to judge other people's relationships based on our own fears. And let me tell you, this isn't just happening in some people. This is happening a lot. When we are noticing that we don't want to be in a relationship, we feel like it's really super safe to be hyper independent. When we close off parts of ourselves, we will probably and most likely judge that very same thing in other people. We will judge the way that they're operating that doesn't match our standards, the way that it doesn't match our belief systems, our survival techniques, our survival thoughts. So, for example, we may see someone who is in a new relationship and think, oh, they can't be alone. What's wrong with them? They can't be alone. Or we might see someone break up with someone and then start a new relationship. Oh my gosh, they just cycle through people all the time. Can be one of those thoughts, right? Just noticing being judgy about other people's relationships or the way that they handle them, even when we know absolutely nothing about the internal goings-on of those relationships or that person. Okay, so one of the things that you can do right now is to start to reframe your beliefs, okay? Instead of, if I open up, it will hurt, I can remind myself, we can remind ourselves, the right people will cherish us. We can think, oh, instead of they're automatically not going to fit into my life, it's just not going to be easy. The right relationship will be easy. The right relationship will allow us to fit our lives together. The right relationship for me will be easier than I thought. And we don't have to make crazy absolute statements, right? Like, the right person for me will check everything, every single box on my list. The right person for me will have brown hair and green eyes. The right person for me, and making it so specific that if no one comes along, you can't possibly be in that relationship, which is really the goal, right? When in survival, the subconscious mind will say, let's set unrealistic standards, unrealistic expectations, so that when no one can fit them, that we can go on being our hyper-independent selves. Okay, so when you're reframing your beliefs and you're setting new standards, new ideas, putting out new opportunities for yourself to be loved, to be in a relationship where you can love and be loved too. Be open, make them simple, make them just a little bit easier. They don't have to become outright lies, right? Like, I'm going to welcome in a relationship tomorrow. When you don't feel that way, don't say it that way. Say, I'm starting to open up to the idea of a new relationship. This is often why affirmations can seem a little bit like lies. And if we can't get behind them, they just won't activate any part of our imagination. They won't activate any part of our belief in ourselves that we can actually have it, right? If you've had a time in your life when you are thinking, I'm completely broke, there's nothing but struggle happening in my life, saying $10,000 is on its way to me today. $10,000 is going to show up in my mailbox today as an affirmation. Your brain's not going to believe it. You're not going to believe it, and it's not going to shift anything. So the same is true with affirmations, shifting your beliefs about relationships. Start to say things that are kind of true and let them grow and let them expand and let them shift into something really powerful for yourself. Okay. The other thing is to practice safe vulnerability. And what I mean by that is to start opening up in small ways with people who feel loving and safe and supportive. So if you have never really shared about yourself with a partner, find someone in your friend circle that you can share something with that you've never shared with anyone. It doesn't have to be a big, terrible secret. It doesn't have to be anything even super important. But if you've held back even talking about your favorite kind of music with your group of friends who like a totally different kind of music, that might be the place to start. These little ways of beginning to share yourself, to share when you're different, to share the parts of yourself that you were stopping yourself from sharing before, can start with these tiny little steps. Okay? Give yourself a breath. I want to know how that feels for you. And the more that you practice, the more that you experience being seen without rejection, the more that your body learns that intimacy is safe. Start with your kids. Start with your friends. And if you're already in a relationship, there's no time like the present to let that person in just a little bit more if it feels good and right and safe to you. Okay, so your mindset shift of the week. Are you ready? Your effective immediately moment of the week is to place your hands on your heart. Always come back to your heart. Always come back to the truth of who you are. Always come back to your connecting with your spirit. And so, being so loving. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, say out loud, the right people will love me for who I am, not just what I do. The right people will love me for who I am, not just what I do. Give yourself the opportunity to breathe that in and let yourself repeat it a few times. The right people will love me for who I am, not just what I do. Notice what emotions arise. Notice if a discomfort comes up and give yourself a chance to breathe through it. Feel what needs to be felt. Notice what thoughts are coming up and repeat it again and again and again and notice what happens in your body. The right people love me for who I am, not just for what I do. The right people love me for who I am, not just what I do. Notice how that feels. Be super loving with yourself. Repeat this again and again over the next week and let the truth of this statement settle into your body. Okay? If deep connection and intimacy feel just out of reach for you, know that you can heal. Okay? And when we work together, we get to the root of the fears and the subconscious patterns and release them so that you can finally experience relationships that help you feel that feel like you are cherished, that you are deeply loved, and that you are truly seen. Okay, wherever you see this video, there's probably a link where you can schedule a consultation with me, or you can send me a DM and we can schedule a consultation and talk about what is possible for you. All right, keep practicing your statement. The right people love me for who I am, not just what I do. The right people love me for who I am, not just what I do. And I'll see you next week. Bye for now.